Hi everyone. So for today's practice we're going to be doing a lot of work for the low back, so strengthening and releasing the low back. And it's going to be a little bit shorter practice today, about 30 minutes. But what I want you to remember is that the effects of this practice are cumulative, meaning that the more you do it, the longer term we'll see results. So feel free to repeat this one as often as you want to. It's going to be short and sweet. So let's get started. Lay down on your back. And I'm going to recommend for this one that we start laying down on our backs with the soles of our feet on the floor and the knees bent, and maybe even allowing the knees to just knock in lightly. And then relax the arms alongside you, palms facing out. Allow the eyes to softly close. And let's take a really deep breath here in through the nose. Exhale, sigh it out of the mouth. And now just starting to notice that natural ebb and flow of the breath. Begin to notice if the breath feels even. Noticing really anything along the way. Maybe there's pauses along the way. Maybe the breath is flowing effortlessly, or it's taking just a little bit of effort here as we start to notice the way that we're breathing. With each inhale, feeling the sensation of filling the body from bottom to top. And with each exhale, releasing from top back down to bottom. And beginning to soften the muscles around the eyes. Relaxing the jaw. And seeing if you can relax down in the shoulders and the arms a little bit more. Softening down through the ribs. Noticing this effortless quality of the belly rising and falling. And just staying with the breath now. Begin to separate the knees, and keeping the soles of the feet on the floor, walk the feet in just a little bit closer to you. And now for this one, we're going to start to do a few pelvic tilts. So this one won't be really super detectable visually, but you should be able to feel just this subtle movement in the pelvis. And so just set the palms down on the floor. And then as you inhale, press the tailbone down and really just feel that low back curve get just a little bit larger. And as you exhale, imprint the low back onto the mat. Good. As you exhale, press the tailbone down. And then imprint the low back onto the floor. So just back and forth, a few rounds here. we're just loosening up some of the tissue in the low back, or maybe even just starting to investigate how our back is feeling right now. Taking one more repetition. And then just finding that neutral spot again and hug your right knee in towards your chest. So squeezing that right knee in, flexing the right foot. And now sliding the hands down to about mid-shin. And really softly now, begin to press your shin into your hands and pull your hands back into your shin. And so we feel this sense of maybe release in the low back on that right side. And you don't have to expel too much effort here. It's just this light pressing up of the shin and this gentle pulling down with the hands. And still noticing that effortless quality of your breath. Releasing. Interlace the hands behind the right thigh, right on the belly of the hamstrings. And we'll squeeze that right knee in towards the chest, flex the right foot, and then take the foot so that it's parallel to the ceiling. So the sole of the foot now is parallel to the ceiling. And we're going to gently pull the hands into the back of the thigh and press the foot up without changing the shape of the leg. So again, we'll feel maybe a little tugging this time at the sit bone on the right side, maybe a little shaking in the leg. And then just a few more breaths here. Keeping the shape from the hip to the knee, now point the toes of the right foot. And then as you exhale, bend the knee, flex the foot. Inhale, stretch the lower leg, point the toes. Exhale, bend the knee, flex the foot. Good. And just a few more times, straighten the lower leg, point the toes. Bend the knee, flex the foot. One more time, stretch that lower leg, point the toes. Pause here. And now slide the hands up to the calf muscle, if you can reach, and gently pull that right leg towards you. Any amount, so we don't want to force it. Pause when you meet resistance and just kind of settle in there. Maybe with each exhale you can pull the leg just a little bit closer to you. One more breath. And release. Hug the left knee into the chest. And take the hands down to about mid-shin. Flex the foot. And again, we're going to press shin into hands, hands back into the shin. And maybe even close the eyes here. I think it's nice to scan the body in each pose and really notice what's happening. So again, maybe noticing a little release in the low back, the SI joint, or even just a little shaking in the leg. How about one more breath here? And release. Interlace the hands behind the left thigh. Again, right in the center of the thigh between the knee and the hip. Flex the left foot. And then take the foot so that it's parallel to the ceiling. Imagine that you're trying to balance maybe a hot cup of coffee on your foot and you don't want it to fall, so that foot stays parallel. And now hug that left knee towards you as you push the foot away from you. And again, notice potentially some tugging in the low back. Nothing painful. Just that observation of maybe some pulling at the sit bone, maybe a little shaking in the leg even. again, we're going to keep the upper portion of the leg right where it's at, and then point the toes of that left foot. And now bend the knee, flex the foot. Inhale, stretch the lower leg, point the toes. Exhale, bend the knee, flex the foot. We'll do that 2 more times. Stretch that lower leg, point the toes. Bend the knee, flex the foot. 1 more. Inhale, stretch the lower leg, point the toes, keep the toes pointed. And now slide the hands up to about the calf muscle, if you can reach up that high, and softly pull the leg towards you. So again, we're going here just until that place where we meet a little bit of resistance and settling in there. Bending the elbows maybe out to the sides. Keep pressing the tailbone down. Keep breathing. How about just 1 more breath? And release. And just take a moment to notice how the back feels here. And then gently pull the knees in towards the chest, maybe rock side to side a little bit. And we'll find our way up to a seated position, and then right over to hands and knees. So see if you can find your way to a straight leg child's pose. So bring the knees together, sink the hips back towards the heels, and stretch the arms forward. Let the weight of the head rest towards the floor. And in this variation, we're just giving our low back just a little bit more support. Take 1 more breath. As you inhale, now rise up to hands and knees, and let's take some classic cat-cows. So as we exhale, tucking the tail, rounding the spine, dropping the head. As you inhale, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze, relaxing the shoulders. And do that just a few more times. And come back to neutral. And now we're going to isolate the low back here. So come down onto your forearms. And we're going to take some of those pelvic tilts or half cat-cow from here. So everything on the upper body can relax. So you can drop the weight of the head and see if you can focus your attention on the low back. So now as you exhale, press the tailbone down. See if you can begin to round just into that lower back. And as you inhale, let the low back curve return. And let's do that a few more times. Maybe even close the eyes and just really tune in, moving vertebra by vertebra through the spine. Taking just 1 more round. And now coming back to center and sinking back to child's pose, either knees apart or knees together here, your choice. Relax the shoulders. See if you can sink the hips back towards the heels. And take 1 more big breath here. Slowly rise to hands and knees. Tuck the toes, find downward facing dog. This is the only time we're going to be here today, so really just kind of linger here for a few breaths. Maybe pedal the feet back and forth, stretch the heart towards the thighs, relax the weight of the head down. And now, as you inhale, rise to the tippy toes, lift the hips, see if you can begin to take the spine forward in a wave. the top of a push-up. And then drop knees, chest, and chin down to the floor. And slide on through to a baby cobra pose. So hands are going to stay right where they're at, elbows squeezing in, and now hover the hands off the floor. So we're in just this hovering version of a cobra pose. Keep breathing. Press the sacrum down towards the floor. Press the hips down towards the floor. Good, and then lower the forehead down. Interlace the hands behind the head. And press the tops of the feet now down into the mat. Press the knees down, press the hips down. And start to press the back of the head into the hands. Lift the head just a few inches. Feel all of those muscles in the back line of the body, just really working now to lift us up against gravity. Keep breathing. And release. Take a breath or two here. You can keep the hands behind the head if you'd like. Good, and then one more time. Press the hands gently into the head. Lift the head up off the mat an inch or so. Press the hips down. This time lift the feet up. Breathe. Maybe close the eyes and just tune into everything working in the body here. Strengthening all of those erector muscles, all of the muscles that support our spine. Good. Now stretch the arms forward, gaze slightly forward. Keep breathing. And as you exhale, release the hands down. Slide the elbows back underneath the shoulders for a Sphinx pose. And just kind of hang out here for a breath or two, maybe even wag the tail from side to side, letting go of any tension you might be holding on to there. And now, if you're already feeling enough in the low back, you can certainly stay right where you're at. Otherwise, hug the upper arm bones in, press the palms into the floor, and we're going to lift our elbows up off the floor. As you lift the elbows up, try not to shrug the shoulders up towards the ears. So relax the shoulders down, hug the upper arm bones in towards each other. Good, how about 3 more breaths? Gaze can be forward if you prefer. Hug those upper arm bones in, hug the energy of the thumbs in towards each other. Good, and then lower back down. Bring the feet together, bring the knees together. And we'll do one more strengthening pose for those muscles of the back. So with the knees together here, begin to push the knees down into the floor. And then just pause. Notice the muscles of the core starting to wake up, probably all the way around. And now begin to lift the ribs further away from the floor. Lift the belly away from the floor. Lift the hips away from the floor. Press the knees down, lift the thighs away from the floor. Breathe. Good, now tuck the toes, lift the knees up off the floor. One more breath. Good. And then drop the knees and the hips and the belly. And maybe just lay down for just a moment, turning the head to one side or the other, noticing the breath, maybe catching the breath. And press your way up. So if you happen to have a block nearby, grab hold of the block. I'll give you a little bit of guidance if you happen to not have one. But we're going to lay straight down on our backs now. And we'll take just a breath or two here to just again notice what's going on as we transition from one pose to the next. So relax the low back if you can. See if you can steady the breath. if you don't have a block, you can certainly keep the knees separated as if you had a block between the knees and energetically start to squeeze the inner thighs towards each other without letting the knees knock in. Ideally, we have a block here and we're going to place it between our inner thighs. And now we're just going to give that block a little squeeze, starting to wake up those adductor muscles. Think about the tailbone lengthening forward and begin to just peel the hips, the low back, the mid back up off the floor. Now see if you can relax the upper glutes just a little bit. Keep squeezing the block. How about just one more breath here? And then as you exhale, slowly lower back down to the floor. Grab hold of that block if you have one. If you don't have one, you're going to stay exactly where you are. If you're lucky enough to have a block, you're going to lift your hips up and slide that block underneath the sacrum, and that usually feels really good. We're just going to enjoy that for a moment, this supported bridge pose. If you have more space and you feel like it would feel better to you to come up a level, you're certainly welcome to flip the block up to the second level. I wouldn't recommend going up to the third level just yet anyway. We're just going to take one more breath here. And then begin to lift the feet up off the floor one at a time and extend the legs straight up towards the ceiling. Keep the feet flexed. So candlestick pose. Just really enjoying that reversal of blood flow. Now, if we have really tight hamstrings, this one's going to be pretty tough right away. So feel free to soften into the knees. Close the eyes, see if you can begin to regulate the breath again. Take just 3 more rounds of breath. And now gently pull the knees in towards you, setting one foot and then the other back down on the mat. Lift the hips, slide the block away, and finally hug just the right knee in towards the chest. And cross that right ankle over the left thigh. Feel free to stay here. If you want to, you certainly are welcome to stay right where you're at. Or if you have the space, lift that left foot up and see if you can interlace the hands around the left shin. Close the eyes. And just settle in here. Beginning again to regulate the breath, nice and slow. Noticing that nice stretch, potentially in the outer hip on the right side. And if you have the space, gently pull the left knee just a little bit closer for this last breath. And release. Uncross that right leg, hug the left knee into the chest, give it a light squeeze. And then cross the left ankle over the right thigh. And again, if you have the space, pick up the right foot, interlace the hands over the right shin, and gently pull the right knee towards you. Just looking for that light sensation of stretch. Uncross the legs, hug both knees in towards the chest. Again, gently rocking side to side on the back. Bringing the arms out to a T or a goalpost shape. Gently drop the knees to your right and take your gaze to the left. And if it feels good, feel free to rest your right hand on your left outer thigh. Take a deep breath here in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. And turning the gaze back up towards the ceiling, bringing the knees back up through center. As you exhale, drop the knees to the left. Take your gaze to the right. Nice deep breath here in through the nose. And exhale, let it go. Slowly come back through center. Hug both knees into the chest, flex the feet, and then press the heels away from you as you pull the knees towards you for a little bit of traction. And then release. One leg, one arm, and then the other leg, the other arm. Close the eyes. Take a deep breath again in through the nose. And as you exhale, let it all go. Enjoy these final few minutes here, just resting and releasing in Shavasana. Slowly begin to deepen the breath. And bring really subtle movement back to the fingers and the toes, and the wrists and the ankles. Softly turning the head from side to side. Walking the legs together, sweeping the arms overhead. Give yourself one deep stretch. And as you exhale, hug the knees in. Begin to find your way to seated, either rocking over to your side or rolling on up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember that this is a practice that can be done over and over again to help strengthen the back. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Namaste.